often wonder, how does an air crash survivor know what's going to keep him alive in a dense forest when he has absolutely no idea about the environment, never been in that situation before, or probably never had the need to acquire that knowledge because he did not need to? Have you ever encountered a situation where, despite what was going on or what was being said, you sensed that there was more to the story than what meets the eye? And you could not name what made you feel or think that way. But as things unraveled, you realized that yes, I was right. Many would call this intuition, and our books teach us that intuition is a major part of survival for human beings. But this topic has been unexplored, often covered under the garb of mysticism, that it leaves a blank space and a sea of opportunities for us to converse. Today, we talk about unleashing intuition to spark your creativity. And with me, I have Sonsoles Alonso. She has been a performing pianist and a music conductor since she was 5. And today, as a successful team and business transformation consultant, she's been making her mark in the area of business. She refers to herself as a multipotentialite. I really want to know what that means, and I'm excited to learn from her, her secret to creativity and intuition. Please welcome Sonsoles Alonso. Welcome, Sonsoles, to Zen Talks.
Hi, Sakina. Thank you so much for the invitation. I just wanted to say before I answer your questions that I really admire the work that you are doing, and that I am really excited to be here, and that I'm also very excited that I have more and more contact with India. This is the third time that I am being interviewed by someone from India, and there is one fourth time coming up. So yeah, it's I like this development. So it's really good to be here.
I'm glad, and now that you're being interviewed from people in India, we hope, and I'm sure that we will see you soon in India as well.
I very much hope so. I look forward to that.
Great. So, Sonsoles, we were introduced by common friends, and I've heard so much about you, about your journey. You went from being a pianist of contemporary music to a successful business transformation consultant. How did that story transpire?
I was classically trained as a pianist. Already while I was in school, I was very small, and I always had good grades. This is not to, I don't say it to brag, but I had good grades at everything, and I was studying piano. And, yet I still have this feeling inside of me, like I have no idea what my work is going to be in the future. And which was very odd. I could not speak about it because people thought, what, you're good at school. So I knew that if I continued to study piano, that my parents would send me abroad. And that is something that I really wanted. So I continued to study piano. I went to New York. I got my master's degree. And then for the first time in my life, one of my teachers said, Sonsoles, what would you like to do? What do you want? And that was the first time, because up until that moment, I have been a good girl, always doing, what my parents wanted and society wanted, etc. So I told him, I want to play contemporary music, which is classical music written by living composers. So I looked at me and he said, okay, then you need to go to Amsterdam. And I did so. And so I specialized in contemporary music, and that was the moment when I discovered that I was not just an interpreter, someone who could play the music that other people have written, but that I was a creator. So I could co-create music together with composers. And in fact, I want to share my screen with you because I want to show you something. Let me see. Yeah, so can you see my screen right now?
Yes, I can see some beautiful colors there.
Exactly. So believe it or not, this is music. And if you are familiar with music notation, traditional music notation is 5 lines and then black dots on it, right?
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Exactly. That's probably what everyone has seen, and that is classical music. But when I came to Amsterdam, we started experimenting with different ways of notating music. And this is like a serious game. And there is a goal that you need to achieve as an ensemble, as a group of people. And there are a few rules that you need to follow. But for the rest, you have a lot of autonomy to decide how you do the work. So we also connected our instruments to electronics, to trigger visuals and to change the sound of the instrument. So I was experimenting a lot. I was a creator, and I also was an entrepreneur. What do I mean with this? Is there was no clear demand and supply for this type of music. So I and my colleagues needed to create a market for it. So I was a pianist, but I was also my own agent. I had to develop strategies to play abroad. I needed to find funding, etc. So I discovered that I was a creator, I was an entrepreneur, right? And so I decided, while still in the arts, to join two different business networks. And that gave me the opportunity to see many corporations from the inside. And at a certain point, after 5 years, I started to see parallels between high-performing teams and high-performing ensembles. And that's when I thought, I have always felt that there was more than one career inside me. And now I see exactly what my next step is supposed to be.
Wow.
So that's how I transitioned to being a team and business transformation consultant. And I basically translated these tools to systemic tools for teams. So even though the setting is different, in my mind, I am still doing the same work.
That's amazing, Sonsoles. In fact, people would generally think that you move from being an artist to take a completely different career, but that's not exactly how it is, right? I mean, a lot what you're doing today is correlated to what you were doing earlier, and you were able to bring the beauty of what you learned and the insights of what you learned then to what you were doing now.
Yeah, so to go back to what you said about what is a multipotentialite, I didn't know this until 8 years ago when I transitioned. I was just, going about my life. But so I learned 8 years ago that I was a multipotentialite. So I can now explain it to you.
I'd love to know. I'm very curious about this cool word.
Yeah. So very simply said, it means that you have more than one career act or more than one business act. But if you're a multipotentialite, it means also that you merge two different fields. So that is basically what I did. I started to see parallels between what I was doing and parallels, with what teams were doing. And that's how I merged both of those fields. And there is a third element about multipotentiality, which is interesting, and that is adaptability, which is linked to connection, to intuition, which is something that you are very passionate about as well. But so when I transitioned careers, my intuition was telling me that the system of the arts here was going to collapse. The government didn't want to fund the arts anymore. The arts needed to be self-sufficient. And I started observing all these changes and talking to my colleagues, and they thought that I was out of my mind. It's like, what? You are going to change careers? the arts are going to collapse. It's like, what are you going to talk? What are you talking about? But I decided, I am headstrong, so I decided to just, go along with my own views. And it happened. So basically, I was adaptable. The market was collapsing. So I combined that capability to merge fields with an actual necessity of having to actually, continue with some kind of career. So it was, all of those things came together.
Very interesting, because I mean, I'm just compelled to share. Um, in the initial career that I had, I started off as an HR professional, working in some of the best brands, best organizations. And despite the fact that I was doing well, things were going great, I said, you know what, I need to do something more. And something in my gut told me that I want to do something absolutely crazy. And my parents, my family, they were like, you must be insane because you just have your dream job. And going against data, going against that the monetary value that it gave me, I said, you know what, my intuition tells me this, so let me just follow it. And I think to a great extent, I feel I'm glad I followed my gut, I'm glad I followed my intuition, because all the different things that I've done, including building a restaurant, uh, it all comes together, and you realize that, hey, you know what I learned as a kid, like my mother put me in lawn tennis. She said, learn lawn tennis, but I can kind of see that what it means to be spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
So today, as an improvised theater artist, I know that the power of spontaneity, and it really helps me in my profession as a facilitator and a coach. So
Yeah,
it's
of
it's.
course.
I
Yeah.
was just compelled to share that because I can really, really relate to a lot what you're sharing.
I love that you say the word improvisation, because the world is moving so fast today that we cannot always plan in advance. So if you have the skill of improvisation, then that means that you can, have a dialogue with the environment. You respond to it as opposed to reacting to it, which is, So that's beautiful. Yeah. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Thank you. And the earlier conversation that we were having about multipotentiality also reminds me of the story of Steve Jobs. When he took a calligraphy class in college, and he later credited that inspiration for Apple's beautiful typography. And in his famous speech, he says that you can't connect the dots looking forward; you can only connect them looking backward. And your journey was evidently non-linear, from a creative profession to enabling people to drive teams and business numbers. What connections do you draw from your life as a pianist and a music conductor to now a team and business transformation coach?
Um, well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, the link is this graphics course that I showed you, this visual notation. Basically, that graphics score is a way to organize a collaboration in music, right? But I translated that to tools for teams. So I am basically doing the same thing, right? So that's one thing. Another experience is that I am still an entrepreneur. In the past, I had to create a market for my productions, but today I also need to create a market for my consultancy. I need to acquire clients, across the world. So it's basically the same thing. And another element is creativity. Even if different clients might have problems that seem similar, every client is different. And so there is no template. I cannot come and say, this is a template and I'm going to make you like this and then you're going to be fine. It doesn't work like that. It's still very creative work. I have my knowledge, I have my tools, but the work itself, the process, is a creative process. You need to combine all those elements in a way that makes sense for that particular client. So I am still an artist, and I still have to read people, which is also a very important part of the work. So yeah, many similarities: creativity, entrepreneurship, these systemic tools to organize
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So in my
And
mind, it's the same work. It's just different setting.
it's just a different context
Yeah.
that you're operating in.
Yeah.
But having worked in an ensemble, and now that you're working in teams, what's that similarity that you see between high performing ensembles and high performing teams?
I am going to show you another picture, if that's okay. Let me see if
Sure,
I
I'd
can
love to.
share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is me working with a team. And if you look at the floor, these markers, in a way, they resemble the graphic score that I showed you in music, right? So here, basically, by using this tool, this is going to become also a high-performing team. It's a team that is well aligned. It's a team that is making business music together. Even though this is a different setting, you know, a team also has to achieve a goal. It's a business goal. It's a different than the goal in the arts. You need to achieve a performance, or you need to put together a performance, but still the same, it's a goal. So yeah, so high performance is equally present in both places.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, you know, I can just imagine that this is a business context, and just like how a music ensemble would be placed, everybody's aligned, everybody is in sync, and can really sync up with each other in order to you know, bring the right notes.
Exactly, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
um so, you know, I had read in one of your articles where you mentioned, you know, coming back to the topic of intuition, you said that intuition is a superpower.
Yes.
And this is really likely to make people uncomfortable who typically would say, hey, data is everything. What's your view on intuition being a superpower, if you can elaborate?
Yeah, so I think data is everything is something that we inherited from the baby boomers. They had an obsession with IQ and with everything analytics. But if you think about it, IQ is just one type of intelligence, right? There are many others. Some researchers speak of 10 different types of intelligence. So, you know, that has been there for very long, and it is hard to change because of how long it has been there. But every change starts always with awareness. And the world that, you know, where we are living today is not the same world as the world of the baby boomers. Things are changing very fast. Things are moving all the time. Variables are changing. So we cannot use the methods of the baby boomers in order to thrive today. So intuition is about very quick synthesis, right? So if something happens in the market, that quick synthesis will allow you to respond in real time. So in VUCA, as we call that today, in volatility, in uncertainty, intuition, if you can make decisions quickly by synthesizing a lot of information, then, you know, that's an asset. But perhaps this sounds a little bit confusing because we have not defined what intuition is. So maybe,
Yes.
maybe we should say something about that. So intuition is about unconsciously blending four different things. Data that we have recently analyzed, experiences from the past, future ambitions or aspirations, and also the possibilities, right? And it's a quick synthesis of all of that. So to go back to your question about, you know, what to say to the people who are obsessed with data, okay, it's an awareness. We are not living in that world of the baby boomers anymore, but also intuition is not the opposite of rational thought, right? It is mindful of our intellect and thereby analytics. I said one of the elements is data that we have recently analyzed. So it's one of the elements. So what intuition does is it comes on top of the data and it enriches, you know, the decisions that we have to make. And if we have that power of that quick synthesis, then boom, we know what to do. So I think those two things could help change the script. Is awareness and intuition, making those kind of decisions based on intuition involves also data. It's not another obsession that we have is binary thinking, or we do this or we do that. It's like we have both. And we encounter many different situations, and for some situations we might need this analytical way of making decisions, and for this other situation we might need to be intuitive. So there is no need to choose. It's just there's a range. And
I love that. I love what you said, that there's no need to choose. It's not either data or intuition. Intuition very much allows data to be a part of it. And I think that if we are able to capture and plug in terms of a decision making, I think then decision making could be so powerful. I probably want to add to that and say that intuition also, if we can just, intuition is, I know but I don't know why. And data could be, I know because, so dot dot dot. um
yeah
yeah. And it throughout, like, in fact, I read one of the interviews of Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, and
yeah
he said that it's ideas need not necessarily be backed by data, because today we have so much of information overload that one set of data says something, another set of data says something else. So that overload will lead us to paralysis of decision making. And he
yeah
said one of his successful shows, House of Cards, data said that no, you know what, we're not launching that. And he went ahead and said yes to this, and it won several Academy Awards. And he said that, what, I learned a lesson from that, saying that data is great, just back it in the park, and really follow your gut. And he is often mentioned as somebody who has a golden gut.
yeah yeah so no, definitely I don't want to underestimate data at all. In fact, I help my clients with data analytics and breaking silos, but yeah, related to what you said, it doesn't matter how much data you analyze today, something is going to happen. Corona is going to happen, to give an example, and it doesn't matter how much data you have analyzed, you still have to make a decision. So
You
yeah.
hit the nail there. You hit the nail there. And
Exactly. Yeah.
we can talk about several businesses that we never predicted would exist, and thanks
Uh-huh.
to, or no thanks to, Corona, they exist today. So
Yeah.
where is data then? And
Yeah.
yeah, so what I get out of this little conversation that we had is balance. Don't make decision making binary. It's data. At the same time, really, really follow your intuition.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, so now that we're talking about this, we've defined intuition, what it is, and we've defined that intuition, is definitely relevant. Um, maybe let's spend some time to understand that why is there so much of hush hush and mysticism about intuition, and why are we not talking about it enough?
I like that you use the word mysticism, because a lot of people think that intuition is something mystical. It is not. I just gave you a possible definition of intuition. But all this hush hush comes from not knowing what it is, or misunderstanding what it is. I have to say that at the beginning of the year, just before Corona hit the world, I was a speaker in Slovenia during the Women Economic Forum. One of my talks was about intuition. And so I did quite a bit of research, and I also did some experiments on Facebook. And I was surprised that people either didn't understand what it was, or, they didn't value it. So I think that we need to start by being clear about what intuition is, being able to be articulate about it, and then once it's not a mystery anymore, then it's out there. So that's one thing. Another reason is that I think in many organizations, especially, there is this mentality of this is how we have always done things. So if you operate in a different way, then you will probably find a lot of resistance from your environment. So, and another reason could be that, unfortunately, a lot of people, they are not open to new experiences, and you cannot really develop intuition or even your creativity if you are not open to new experiences. So yeah, there is a shift, a mind shift that needs to happen in there also when it comes to being curious. And I think curiosity, that is really the beginning of everything, but it is not a very valued quality, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
but do you see the shift happening slowly and gradually?
yes, slowly and gradually, and I think you need to surround yourself by the people who think like that, because that will help you enormously. You will feel supported. And then, if you are a transformation agent, then you need to gradually, get people on board. But my experience is that this type of change takes a lot of time. If you look at organizations, we are used to look into the past, to decide what it is that we need today. But what the world is asking of us today is to actually build the future. And things are moving so fast that we have to co-create and co-sense that future with other people. We cannot look to the past for solutions because we are not there anymore. Corona, we don't have experience dealing with Corona because this is the first time we have Corona. So you cannot find a Corona expert. There isn't one. But that requires a different kind of thinking. You also see it in recruitment. They are always, recruitment is usually looking for someone who has 20 years of experience doing the same job in 6 different companies. It's like, so how are you going to find the Corona expert with 20 years of experience? That person just doesn't exist,
Yeah, you really, I completely resonate with that point. It's not only about your past, but what potentiality it holds for the future. So, I mean, and I'm sure now that we're talking about Corona experts, there would emerge some after this whole experience.
Yeah. But right now we need to respond to Corona as it is happening, and for that you need different skills than in the past, when you could predict basically what was going to happen. So yeah,
which
we
in the
need to
most
reskill.
Absolutely, and in the most layman sense, people call common sense, which would very much correlate to intuition, right?
I had never thought about it that way, but yeah, perhaps that's a way to say it. Yeah, common sense. I'm not sure, because is it common sense? Give me 1 second. I think, I'm not sure, because I think to be intuitive, you also need to be a kind of sensitive person. And what I mean is sensing what is happening around you. And I don't think that everyone is sensitive. People could be more sensitive, but that's not the way they run. They roll often. That's my experience, but I don't know. But yeah, maybe common sense. I'll think about this.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
That would be Zen Talks Part 2 with on solace.
Exactly. Hey.
Yeah, and picking up from what you shared, you spoke about sensing what's happening around you. I also feel somewhere intuition is also about sensing what's happening inside you.
Yes.
Because so often, the sensory overload that tends to overwhelm us, we forget to listen to our inner voice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Sonsalas, my concluding question on this topic is that a lot of people say that, I'm really not able to exercise my intuition. What are the several ways where people can get really in touch with their intuition and their intuitive self?
Yeah. So I think the most important one goes back to curiosity. Really, you know, uh, having this kind of beginner's mindset, this not knowing, and make that a normal part of how you roll. I would say also stepping back and observing. When before I built my consultancy, I joined those two business networks that gave me the opportunity. I had one foot in the arts and one foot in the business world. So I was looking from a distance. I was just an observer. And that allowed me to see the dots that I needed to connect. So that's one. Now, you were talking about the sensing what is happening inside. I think it's also important to be able to spend time on our own. Maybe in contact with nature or even at home, it doesn't matter. But we need to disconnect from the world so that, we can, come in contact with what is inside us, and whether that is the same as what others are observing or not. But this goes against the grain of what usually happens. But I think is that it's curiosity, is being an observer, is being able to spend time in solitude, and another very important thing is observing trends. What is happening in my industry or my theme of interest, what is happening in there, and also to observe societal changes. When I look at my career transition, what I was observing is that the government, was tightening the budget every 4 years and more and more. It was really kind of aggressive. But there was also a societal change. Suddenly there was hardly any appreciation for music or for the arts in general. So that is part of the whole story of being intuitive. You need to know what's happening around you, and combine that with observing, with the solitude, with the curiosity. So you need to be interested in environment. Yeah.
Very interesting. And that's where Sonsolas, a lot of individuals, if you're talking about professionals, you tend to become such an expert in your own domain, in your expertise, that you
Yeah.
forget what's happening around.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, in your world, I'm sure you're able to draw insight from from other businesses, from other industries, from things that are not immediately related to you.
Absolutely. So, I tell my clients when they lead teams, give your people the opportunity to do something different than what they do every day. Just go around and ask, is there anything else that you would like to be doing today? Go ahead and do that.
How many organizations even allow that? But I think that's a very valid point you make, because I think organizations today should really focus on what more, rather than building experts within, because expertise is going to reach a full stop.
Yes. This system that we have today, we have constructed that, but it's not the absolute truth, right? Like in the Renaissance, it was normal to have many interests and to be good at them. So what we are doing today, it can be changed again. I mean, we can bring back the Renaissance, so to speak.
Renaissance too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we all have many interests, and we want to contribute, and why not? That I think what the world needs today is, I like the word neo-generalist, so people who are both experts and generalists at the same time. because of course you need a certain degree of expertise in order to do certain work, but you can be an expert in several things, and if you're lucky to have a boss who gives you autonomy to change tasks, then that can be a very positive environment to thrive in.
And that's such a hopeful note to end on, to wish for more of neo-generalism, multipotentialism, these two beautiful words that I picked up from you, thanks to you, Sonsoles. I really, really look forward to seeing you whenever we get an opportunity overcoming COVID soon in India. But I want to ask you as a last question, what's the first thing that you'd want to do when you come to India?
A number of things, actually. I had a great Ayurvedic doctor in Amsterdam many years ago, and he now moved back to India. So I would pamper myself with lots of massages to start with.
Wishing more of that.
Yeah, no, but I have met a number of remarkable women lately, and one of them is the organizer of the Women Economic Forum in Slovenia, where I was a speaker. Her name is Harbin Arora, and I would like to meet her. I would like to meet you. I would like to meet Sarika Karbanda, who interviewed me also just a couple of weeks ago. I am going to be mentoring some young entrepreneurs in India shortly. So I want to meet all these remarkable people and just,
that's incredible. I'm really, really looking forward to meet you, Sonsoles. I think really you're doing some incredible work. What are the ways in which people can reach out to you and get in touch with you, if you can share that?
Social media, of course. It can be LinkedIn, it can be Facebook. I'm always willing, by the way, to do Facebook Lives. I never do them, but I need a reason. So if people have questions, about intuition or multipotentiality or, career changes today or any other issues, leadership. I mean, of course, if it has to do with teams or, or business, then they can reach out to me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, my website, sonsolesalonso.com. I think these days we can find anyone very easily. So
indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sonsoles, I think this was a conversation very, very close to my heart because it was on two things, intuition, creativity, and I got to meet somebody as incredible as you. Really, really thank you for your time to be on this 30-minute segment of Zen Talks. I really appreciate it.
No, it was very exciting to be here. As I said, I admire your work. And I want to compliment you also on the way that you are prepared for this interview, which has been very impressive. So it has been a big pleasure to do this with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonsoles.